without any further ado, let me turn to Shahira, and you have a story, Shahira, called "The Power of a Lie."
Yeah, thank you.
Can you read from it for us?
Yes, I can. I've got it here. Amongst the familiar and anonymous faces of work colleagues and acquaintances saying their last goodbyes to my father, he was the only one that I recall. That said, if it weren't for his tight embrace and the genuine looking tear in his eye as he offered his condolences, I might not have remembered him 3 days later when I was waiting for a taxi. He pulled over and offered me a lift. I told him I was going to Baharistan, which apparently was on his way. His car, a white Pecan Javanon, overtaken by the stench of lingered tobacco, had miniature prayer beads dangling from its rear view mirror. He had a tattoo on his upper arm, mostly covered by the short sleeve of his off-white t-shirt. He didn't seem the type that my father would associate with. I asked him how he knew my father. We must talk about that, but not now. He suggested we meet up after the 7th day of my father's departure ceremony. His response to such a simple and basic question didn't make sense. I don't normally care for people who make everything more complex than necessary. Any other time, I would have made an excuse and walked away. But how could I miss the opportunity of knowing something about one of my late father's unusual acquaintances? I agreed to meet up. The only information that he offered on that occasion was his name, Majid. I'm going to stop right here.
Thank you for that reading, Shahira. And the story, as it develops, if I remember it right, is about somebody who learns that the people or the person who believes is their biological parent or parents is not, and the shock of that, and the emotional conflict around it. As a reader, you're pulled backwards and forwards, and you stand in the main character's shoes, thinking, what would I do in that situation? How would I feel? And for that reason, it's a really engaging story. But it's also quite unusual. How did you dream it up, or where did you find it?
I think it was Abby who said she's a reality writer. I am more of a similar nature. I tend to write what I see around me. This story is also based on something that I saw. Funny enough, as a child, I think I just moved to secondary school, and the memory is kind of hazy there, but it was such a shocking thing to witness that I remembered it for many years, and I never knew that I could still recall that until I came to write it.
I think one of the great things that you've done in this story, though it may be my reading, I may be wrong, is that, and what literature, what narrative can do, is you don't fully take sides. Whereas, let us argue with someone. Let me find someone to argue with. Whereas, say, poets, they have an opinion and they have a voice. With narrative, you can have different perspectives, and you don't have to say this is me, the author's opinion, in these things. And I love the way it kind of shifts around, and I think as it shifts around, as the reader, I start to understand the people who brought the baby up, their perspective, while not telling him that the circumstances by which they acquired him or came to look after him. And then I can understand the anger of him as he grows up and finds out that actually his whole biography is false. And then despite the let's say the barbarity, the depravity, the viciousness of the circumstances, there is that. It's a minor mitigation, but there is that thing that the baby, we think the baby is innocent. Whatever was the parents are doing, I didn't kill the baby. No, that might be a hard sell in a law court, but at least there is something there that there is an element of humanity is a little slither of it, but I love the way it moved around, and I thought that was something that that distinguished your story so well. And were you aware of it as you were writing that you would have a line, or that the moral line would shift and move all the time, or did it just happen?
Thank you. Yes, I think that's where the power of literature is, because in this today's world we all have our perspectives, and quite often some of us are sticking to that so rigidly, and we don't want to see things from the other side. And I think literature gives us that opportunity, and I think as a writer I really love to play with writing in such a way that I can go in and out of different perspectives, if you like. And as a reader, I quite like reading things that are like that. I see that as a practice for the real life. If we could do that with a piece of fiction and what we read, think about what happens if we could do that in our everyday life. And I think quite a lot of problems and conflict can be solved that way, when we learn or try to see things from different perspectives. So I do try to not to take side, but I don't know what proportion of it is deliberate, what proportion of it is subconsciously driven. I don't know, but thanks for saying that.
It's also quite difficult in a short story. In a novel, you've got a lot more room for this switching, but in a short story, it's quite hard to pull off.
Yeah, I'll quickly jump in and respond to my question. Yeah, just like you, I actually love listening and taking hints, if you like. But I think most of the time is, even I'm not conscious, I hear something and that triggers the whole train of thoughts for me. Mm-hmm. That's why I tend to walk around with a pen and paper all the time. So
we're so alike.
Yeah, funny enough, for me, places do have that effect too. So I walk into a room and then I sense something and or feel the urge to write something. So yeah, people and places, I would say, definitely.
Thank you so much. I feel so better about myself because I thought I was crazy. Because especially when I was working in Manchester, I actually did a whole series of train journey where I'll get on the train, and it's not that I purposely want to listen in, but the conversation is loud and I hear it. And next thing I'm writing this short story around it. So it's good to know that I'm not the only one who walks around with a pen and, like picks up on people.
But can I just say, the fact that someone else is like you doesn't acquit you from being crazy. Both could be in that situation. But
oh it was really good and then you ruined it. Thank you.
To the writers who have shared this space with me, thank you ever so much for your stories. I have great hopes you're going to go on and astonish the world with your brilliance. I think we've really set down a marker here. It's a really high quality publication, and that's all thanks to you. I'm next perhaps going to be in touch with you about continuing the project in using a slightly different form. But that's my cliffhanger for you for today. I'm not going to tell you quite what that form is. But for now, yep, you can find Shots in the Dark 2 on the Issue platform. Look for that. And I'm sure if you follow us on Facebook or you check out YouTube or any other social media platform, you'll find out more about what we're doing, what we've done, and how we love to be in the world.